Let's talk about AWS VPC access. How do we access the virtual private cloud from outside of the AWS infrastructure? How do I connect my on-premises environment to the AWS virtual private cloud? Well, for starters, we're going to need a VPN. And there are several different types of VPNs. So let's start off with hardware-based VPN. This is where you have a hardware appliance that you're installing on premises that you're using to connect to an endpoint on your AWS VPC. You then have Direct Connect. This is a dedicated private connection that you use where AWS will show up as another node on your WAN, or if you're going through Colo, and we're going to expand on Direct Connect in a few slides here. Then you have VPN Cloud Hub. VPN Cloud Hub is when you have several different branch offices and you have to figure out how to give these branch offices access to VPC. They're either going to go through your on-premises data center or they're going to connect directly to that VPC. You have your software VPN. This is where you can stand up an instance on AWS, turn that instance into the endpoint gateway, and then through software just connect to it from your on-premises environment. Now, you also have gateways, and with gateways, you have the Internet Gateway. This is configured on the AWS VPC side, and this is useful to allow instances that you create on your VPC to get access to the internet. Now, the virtual private cloud is used when you're configuring a hardware-based VPN to connect your on-premises data center to AWS or to your VPC. That is the endpoint that you configure on your VPC. The customer gateway is the representation of what you're configuring at the customer side in order to connect through a hardware-based VPN to your virtual private gateway. Let's first identify and talk about the different VPN types just to make sure there are no misconceptions and to make sure that we're all on the same page when we say virtual private network. So for starters, there are different types of virtual private network. The most common one is when you have a server that's available either in your corporate data center, it could be available in AWS, it could be available anywhere, and you configure remote access on it. Now, this remote access server, you're connecting over the internet, you have an encryption that's going on between wherever you're connecting from and that server. So it's an encrypted connection from the user's location to that remote access server. This is one of the most common VPN types. It's a virtual private network. And typically when you say VPN to someone, this is the first thing that resonates is users that are getting access to corporate resources. And these users can be at home, they could be on the road, they could be at a different branch, etc. But this is typically how it is. Now there's also another type of VPN, and that's called a site-to-site VPN, when you have a branch office, or in this case it would be a cloud service provider, and you want to also connect this with your corporate office. Now what you do is kind of the same thing. You're using the internet, and it's also an encrypted connection. It's a site-to-site connection between your corporate office and that branch or that cloud service provider, but it's leveraging the internet as a mechanism, as the medium of transport, and as a result you are encrypting all that. Now that's also known as site-to-site. Now there's also another way of doing a virtual private network, which is typically done through a private connection. This could be an MPLS, a T1, T3, whatever it can be. But those are also virtual private network. Now, those do not go over the internet, and they typically don't have encryption. And as a result, you saw, I'm not putting that tube around it, so typically you don't have an encryption on it, but that's also a virtual private network. Now, there's a lot of misconception because you'll find that people will not identify an MPLS, for example, as a virtual private network. And my question is, well, what else would it be? It's not a physical connection, so it has to be a virtual private network. So I just want to make sure that from a terminology perspective, we're all on the same page as far as what VPN means and how it is being defined.